Hello, my name's Richard and you're watching the Positive Arsenal podcast. Hello, my name's Richard. Welcome back to my channel over and over again, featuring everything to do with Arsenal. This is actually the 5th episode of the Positive Arsenal podcast. I know there hasn't been so much to be positive about the last week or so, but we're going to try the best that we can to be as positive as we can despite everything that's going on. Before we get started, just a reminder, this is currently going out live on YouTube, on Facebook and on Twitter. So wherever you're watching it, please give it a like. And if you haven't done so already, please nip over to YouTube and give the channel subscribe as well. And if you want to be part of the show for any comments, just drop them in the box as well, and we can go through them as we go along. So I've got some very special guests joining me tonight to have a good conversation about everything that's going on at Arsenal, both good and bad. First of all, joining me is returning to the channel. It's Paul. All right, mate? How you doing? You all right?
Very well, Rich. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, thanks for coming back on. Always a pleasure to speak to you. And also, we've got our pretty much resident panelist and also our positivity guru. It's Andrew. How you doing, mate?
Hello, mate. You all right?
Yeah, not bad.
I'll never take it for granted, mate. I'll always keep trying as hard as I can. Give it 110%. You know what I mean?
Well, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. And finally, last but not least, someone I've been really excited to have on the channel. It's his debut on this channel. Really pleased to welcome Lee. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, how you doing, Richard? All right, all good. Thank you very much.
Good. So there we go then. That is the panelists, and this is the Positive Arsenal podcast. So where do we start then? I mean, I know we don't really want to dwell too long on it, I guess, but our last result, of course, our last performance wasn't the greatest one, was it, if we're all honest? I did actually see a shocking statistic the other day that we're actually 92nd out of the 92 Football League clubs on chances created in the second half of matches this season. For a club like Arsenal, with the forward players that we've got, I just find that staggering, really. I just can't really understand why that's the case. There's obviously reasons why. I think maybe we need to have a little look at that. So if we maybe start with you, Lee, why do you think we're struggling to create any chances really at all in games at the moment?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? So personnel, I think something to do with it. The midfield balance is not quite right. And I have to say that with under Mikel, I will have to say that I think he's being far too cautious. I said it before, I'll say it again. I think that he's more. It seems he's more afraid to lose games than go and try and win games, and I think that's been a little bit of a worry for me. I have to say the last few games. But let's be honest, I haven't seen a very entertaining game at home this season in the league. I think we struggled against West Ham, struggled against Sheffield United. The game against Leicester was poor, and Lily said about last Sunday's game, the better really. So I think that they're the ingredients. I think that Arteta was desperate to get Aouar in the transfer window. That didn't happen, and I think from that moment on, we've struggled a little bit to find the right balance of midfield players. And I think that he's got to try and work it out from here to January if we're going to make some inroads into this top four and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, so do you think it's more personnel then that needs to change, or do you think we can maybe? I know you said Arteta has been a little bit cautious, which I believe. I'm with you on that. I do think he is. I mean, do you think that maybe we need to start taking a few more risks?
Yeah, I think
players express themselves more, maybe, rather than changing the personnel.
Well, I think a slight change of personnel would help, but also I think a change of system. I think he's got to look at getting his defenders, the defenders that he wants, and start trusting them. I think at the end of the day, he's putting players in at the moment and trying to cover up block holes and all that instead of what he's saying, really trust the back four. And he's been given the chances to Mustafi. He's got Holding in there. Chambers is looking like he's coming back now. But all of those players, he's wanted to get out, or whether it be through loan system or selling them. He doesn't trust that right side of the defence. And if you be honest, Rich, you have to look at it and say that, and all credit to Villa, they targeted it. They knew exactly where their weaknesses was, and they bombarded it from start to finish. And when you've got central defenders or defenders, when a forward gets the ball and his first fault is to drop 10, 15, 20 yards, you have to turn around and say, that's telling you all you need to know. So I think he's got to say, right, I'm going to trust my defence, whatever it is, play a back four, and get the extra man in midfield. The game was lost on Sunday, not just with our defending, but we lost the midfield battle because there was 2 against 3 players in there with quality. The reason that he's playing 3 in there is because he's trying to shore up the back too much, and I think that he has got to look at that and say, right, I'm going to trust these defenders, get the right personnel in midfield, and start playing players that are in form. There's players at the moment that are being given chances, more chances than they deserve, if I'll be honest.
Yeah, no, I don't really disagree. I mean, what do you think, Paul? I was going to cut to Andrew. He's just disappeared. What do you think then, Paul, about sort of, what needs to change if we're going to start being able to at least create more chances in a game, even if we're not scoring goals? At least let's create something. Do you know what I mean? We're just not creating, are we? That's a massive thing.
No, we're not. No, and it's I completely agree with what Lee was saying. He seems more concerned about losing games than winning them. And I'm just not. The front three are all right, but I'm just not too sure that we've got anyone in there really that is ready to go in there and create chance. I think personnel is the biggest problem. I don't really see anybody that can slot in that kind of number 10 position really, and create anything. I think you can experiment with the front three. I think everybody's crying out for Aubameyang to be played down the middle. Maybe give Pepe a little bit more of a run in the side. We got more options out wide than we have through the middle. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But for me, it's personnel is the biggest problem. And just we all hate the phrase that Wenger always used about the handbrake, but maybe just need to release that a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think that seems fair. I mean, what about yourself, Andrew? What are your kind of thoughts on the cautiousness about the way we're playing, really? Because I think that's what it is, isn't it? It's very cautious.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with everything that the other guys have said. And Mikel Arteta is trying to build his reputation. He's obviously aware of the size of the job that he's got at hand. Being the new manager, that's obviously big on his mind. But I think that he doesn't fully trust the defence as it stands. Although the defence is massively improved, as we all can see, he still doesn't trust it 100%. We still make mistakes. Until that defence can actually play out from the back the way that he wants, very, very confidently, then he won't allow the midfield to really express themselves, which will in turn, obviously, help the forward line be creative as well. So I don't think that's really, I don't know, it's not really working properly at the moment because of that, I think. And that's the main thing I think Mikel Arteta is. He's totally being too conservative. It's really frustrating, really, really frustrating. It's a hard watch at the moment. But we've got the bare bones of a decent team there. He definitely just needs to allow the front players and the more creative players to just express themselves and not put so much onus on them to be defenders themselves. Build the team around those guys, the ones that can score the goals, and just allow them to play with a bit more freedom.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, the biggest worry for me wasn't necessarily the Aston Villa game, as poor as that was. It was actually more the Leicester game before that, because we played the three in midfield in that game, and it just didn't work. Because it's almost like, again, he told them to sit too deep. No one was pushing him behind the defence, and that was probably worse for me, the Leicester performance, rather than Aston Villa. Actually, Aston Villa, as Lee said, they just dominated the midfield with better players in there, and we couldn't cope with that. Whereas against Leicester, we had more men in midfield, and we just didn't use it properly, which to me was more of a worry.
Let's say one more quick thing. It doesn't help either that Mikel Arteta literally wants to tell them every single pass to do, but standing on the sidelines. Sometimes just go and sit down and let them play. I really do think that's an issue, because I've spoken to guys that, we'll probably play football before. We wouldn't want to be, any job you're in here, actually, it goes across the board. You don't want to be constantly someone looking over your shoulder telling you what to do. It pisses you off after a while.
Yeah,
Pardon my French. And I think that sometimes you just need to go give them the instructions and just let them get on with it.
No, I totally agree, and maybe that comes down to the freedom side of it, giving the players the freedom to express themselves. And I think we saw, actually, I know we're going to come on to it a bit more later on, but the way Bukayo Saka played for England last night is completely opposite to how he's being told to play for Arsenal. He was just given freedom last night to go and do his thing, and he was brilliant. And he's not really played like that for Arsenal for quite a long time, because he seems to spend half his time worried about giving the ball away. And I think a few of the younger players maybe are in a similar way, where that they're almost scared to express themselves too much in case they lose the ball, and then they're going to get Arteta on their back, which maybe isn't helping. I don't know. I mean, the young players is something else we can come on to a bit later on. I mean, on sort of the personnel side of it, I know we're sort of talking about maybe making changes to the personnel. One player in particular that comes up a lot when we talk about that is obviously Nicolas Pepe, and he's obviously come out this week, hasn't he, saying how unhappy he is with a lack of opportunity that he's been getting in the Premier League. And I think we all can agree that he's not got enough opportunity. But firstly, is he right? Should he be having more minutes? And secondly, why do you think he's not been featuring as much under Arteta this season as maybe he was previously under Unai Emery, for example? I mean, Paul, what's your kind of thoughts on that?
I think it's consistency for me with Pepe. The thing with him as well, he does get goals, he does create chances, and he's got that ability which not many players in the squad have, to be able to create something from nothing. There's very, very few players that we've got in the squad that can do that. So I think he's half right in the sense that I think he does deserve more chances, because when you look at his performances in the Europa League, although sometimes he can be a little bit frustrating on the ball, you look at his statistics and the goals and assists that he's already chipped in so far. I think we need that at the moment, and he is one of the few players that we've got that has the ability to be able to create something. So I absolutely would give him more of a chance in the Premier League. I would give him a run of games and just see how he gets on. He just needs to be slightly more consistent for me in terms of not just working back, because I think he does that as much as anybody else does. I just think just being more consistent and just trusting himself, because when he runs at players, like I say, we haven't got many players that can run at people and just scare the living daylights out of them, and he's got that in abundance. So I because it's not working, I would absolutely give him a run of games and just see what he can do.
Yeah. I mean, Lee, would you be tempted to give Pepe maybe 5, 6, 7 games in a row and see what he does with a run in the team?
Well, I would, but he's not Mikel Arteta's man, is he? Didn't sign him, and I think that's a big thing. I really do, because Paul brings up a great point there about consistency. Well, yeah, Willian's been consistent, you know what I mean, but not been the consistent that I want. No. But he seems to be playing week in, week out, and being given lots of chances. Why? Because he's Arteta's signing. I think what worries me about Pepe is I watched him against Dundalk. I know it's Dundalk, and you forget about the opposition. He's playing really well, scoring a goal, playing really, really well. 60 minutes, he's taken off. People turning around and saying, he's playing against Manchester United. That's why he took him off after 60 minutes. Well, he didn't. He didn't play against Man United. So why didn't he let him carry on playing and enjoying himself and get playing well? And it, to me, says it could be two things. One, that he don't want him to play well because it's going to put pressure on him, and two, because it's not his signing. Because I think that if you really want a player to work, and I mean work as a bit of success, you've got 72 million Arsenal spent on this boy, and you would put your arm around him and make it work, make it happen. But I just don't think it is. And I think that if I was Nicolas Pepe, I'd be very, very worried about what's going on at Arsenal now, because I would think to myself, right, well, I played well in the semi-final against Man City, played well in the cup final against Chelsea, and then he goes and buys a free transfer for 32 million, and he's playing him every week in front of me, and I'm just getting scraps, if you want, off of Willian. Now, if Willian was doing the business and playing well every week, you can get that. But if I was Pepe, I'd be looking at him going, well, hold on a minute here. He ain't doing well, Willian. Aubameyang's done nothing since, realistically, to justify a place in the team other than a big contract. I'm the biggest paid. I'm the biggest on the record Arsenal signing here. Now, if you look back in history and everything like of Arsenal players, record signings do get a bit more of a fair run than what he's had, in my opinion. You know, you've got to do that. And yes, I agree. I agree also that I don't think he's pulled up trees, if I'll be honest, in his performances. But then I think to myself, well, it's a little bit hard if when you're starting to play well, you getting taken off, and then you're bringing in and whatever. And when you look at it, guys, does anybody look like scoring in the Arsenal team other than him at the moment? Not in my eyes. I think he's the one that has scored or looks like he could make things happen. Sure. And then you bring him on with 20 minutes to go in this game, and was he put on there to foul? Because when he did come on, we disintegrated. You know what I mean? So you've got to have the right balance from behind him. You know, so Mikel Arteta can turn around and say, well, I brought him on and we was 1-0 down. The game was tight. We end up losing it 3-0. You know, so I feel there's something not quite right with this because, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that it's starting to become a little bit of a worry now that Pepe is not being given the chance, where other players seem to be getting a little bit more chances, and I don't think that's right. I'd rather we give him the chances and instead of a 32-year-old player that's had his better days at Chelsea.
Yeah, I think you raise it. There's a good point there, Lee, with the trend of Arteta and the way he treats players that he's not brought in. Because you look at Saliba as well. Saliba's another one, which I know there's possibly some personal stuff that's gone on, which has maybe affected how quickly he's settled within the team. But there definitely seems to be a trend with how he treats his players and the players that were maybe already at the club. So it's a good point, that.
I mean, all I would say on that is, I mean, if we go back to maybe this time last year, Pepe was starting most games in the Premier League, wasn't he?
So was Ozil.
Yeah. Well, no, but I think Ozil was a bit in and out of the team, wasn't he? But Pepe was starting quite a lot at the beginning of last season, the first maybe 10, 15 Premier League games before Emery departed. He was playing quite a lot. Now, I know he'd only come over to the country, settling in, stuff like that. So maybe we wouldn't have expected him to produce his best performances. But it's certainly changed massively since Arteta's come in. And is that, as Lee says, is it because he's not Arteta's player? I mean, what do you think, Andrew? I know you want Pepe in the team a lot more, don't you?
Oh, I mean, I've got so many things to say on this. I mean, firstly, spot on, Lee. I think I agree with everything you just said. Secondly, how the hell can he perform when he's not being trusted? He's literally not trusted. No one passes him the ball. He's the most technically gifted player I think we've got, apart from he who shall not be named, who's sitting in the stands tweeting throughout the match. But apart from him, he's the one I want to pay to see play. He reminds me a bit of Carnu, because Carnu was the same. He was very quite, erratic, and no one knew what he was going to do, even himself. But he was exciting to watch. And Pepe's the same. But I want to watch players like that. I don't want to watch Willian. I want to watch Pepe. Willian should be his understudy, and everyone should be getting him the ball. And why do you think Aubameyang's not scoring? It's because Pepe's not playing. Pepe was linking up with Aubameyang really, really well. He brought him into the game. It's maddening, because for someone who's taken a while to adjust to a new league, into a new country, and so on and so forth, as we all know, and for someone who's actually not starting games and not being trusted, his return is pretty damn good, in regards to goals and assists. So, I mean, when was the last time he played and he didn't actually have an assist or a goal? Because I can't remember. Seriously.
From starting a game, I don't know. From starting a game, I don't know.
Even when he's come on, he scored a brilliant goal. Look at Sheffield United. He's actually willing to shoot at goal and all. How many players have we got that are willing to shoot? I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
it's maddening. He needs to be one of the main key players in the team because we've got some really good defenders now. We've got Thomas Partey in the middle, who, when he played alongside Xhaka, got 50% less passes, lost less of the ball than Xhaka did. The ball should go through Partey. Partey should play more on the right-hand side and bring Pepe to play more. Pepe needs to get the ball because he's either going to shoot, he's either going to assist, he's either going to score a goal. He's the one we need at the moment. We're desperately crying out for creativity, and we've got 72 million quid sitting on the bench, not doing nothing at the moment in the Premier League. So that's one thing. The second thing is, just very quickly, is when you've got a player like Pepe and you paid 72 million quid for him, why is everyone moaning at him for not defending properly? Well, I mean, seriously, what would you pay 72 million pounds for someone that you want to defend? He's not working hard enough. He's not tracking back, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm sorry, but we are desperate for goals. I want someone to, like Pepe, and you pay 72 million quid for him, to go out there and express himself. And you have players around him to do all the running around and the donkey work and the tracking back. Just they should get the ball to him, and he should then do the damage at the sharp end of the pitch, for crying out loud. I don't blame Pepe for being the way he is. I'd be exactly the same if I was him, because he's got far worse players playing ahead of him in the team, and who aren't producing the goods. So there you go. I mean, yes, he's going to run the ball out every now and then. Yes, he skews the odd pass. But that's he's like a maverick player, and you have to accept that. But he is the one capable of producing that bit of magic that we all want to watch and we all desperately need at the moment. And that Dundalk game that you said, Lee, what a goal! What a goal that was with his weak foot. I don't understand it personally. I think he needs to play. Of course he does. And he's one of our most important players, in my opinion.
I mean, I would just maybe go back to the point that Paul made actually right at the start of this little section when he said about consistency with Pepe. I don't necessarily think it's a matter of consistency in performances, which he's not going to get when he doesn't play. I think it's more about consistency with his decision-making during a game when he's playing, because he will go from doing something unbelievably fantastic like the goal against Dundalk or several other goals and assists that he's done to within 5 minutes of that, going up blind alleys, falling over his own feet and making the wrong decision. And he goes between the two of them constantly throughout the game. And I think what Arteta wants is for him to be more consistently making the right decisions. And is he going to be able to do that when he's on the bench? No, of course he's not. He needs games and times on the pitch to be able to transition that and to be able to become more consistent in his decision making in the final kind of ball decision making sometimes. But I mean, it is quite a tricky one. But now he's actually come out and not exactly criticised Arteta, but he's made it public how he's feeling. I know it was in the French press, and maybe translation sometimes doesn't always come across the same. But I just think that's a dangerous game, because when you upset Arteta, he doesn't.
It really wasn't like that, though. If you read it, I mean, it was totally overblown. It was like clickbait headlines. And if you listen to and read the actual transcript, it was nothing like that. He said it was all down to himself to prove his worth. To be honest, but yeah, it's one of those clickbait things. Really, I wouldn't read too much into that, to be fair.
Yeah, no, possibly, yeah. But I mean, ultimately, he still come out in the press and expressed his dissatisfaction with the current situation, and whether he meant it in the same way that it's been portrayed. Yes, I agree, probably not necessarily, but I just feel that's a bit of a dangerous game with Arteta, because he has got a history already of discarding players for reasons that we don't necessarily know, personal reasons, I think sometimes. And like Lee said at the beginning, he's not Arteta's player, is he? So I don't think Arteta would have any problem at all just putting him to one side like he's done with some of the other guys.
I think
sorry, go on. Sorry.
I think he'd be on dodgy ground if he does though, Richard, because he's already they've already outed Ozil on the highest paid thing. If you're going to start benching or not even playing your biggest asset, which he is, let's be honest, you know what I mean? I think he would be under dodgy ground. I think that if I was Pepe, I think he's played it quite clever, because he is, I think, got a little bit more power than what perhaps we think because of those things. I don't think he's really said too much wrong. He's come out and said that I'm not happy that I'm not getting enough game time, and I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I think it's obvious. You know what I mean? He'd like to play more, but I don't think he was disrespectful in what he said.
No.
If I'll be honest, so I think. And listen, and I'm going to be really honest with you. Here. If Arteta was to do this, go down the route of dumping him again, it's not going to be good for him and his man management assessment. Because at this moment in time, look, it sounds like I'm not an Arteta fan because I am, you know what I mean? But I think he's doing real. But there are sort of questions and people hovering around at this moment in time, you know what I mean? The vultures are hovering because they're looking at the mistakes he's making and seeing the negativity side of it. And I get that. And we're bringing up negativity stuff here that Arteta can't defend at the moment, and so I think he would be going on to dangerous ground if he sort of annihilated Pepe.
Yeah, no, I agree. But having said that, though, I just find it. Is it a coincidence that since Arteta has been promoted, if you like, to manager as opposed to head coach, it seems as though the performances of the team have dropped and certain players don't seem to be quite as on board with it as they were. Now, I don't know what's gone on behind the scenes for that. Maybe it is a coincidence, but the timing of it does seem to be, towards the end of last season, I felt, and I'm sure we all did, that we were moving in a really positive direction quite quickly. And Arteta was doing a really good job with sorting certain players out that hadn't been performing, getting the team to defend properly. But we were also able to score goals and win games. But this season, none of that seems to be happening. Even the defensive side, it's still not great. We're still not keeping clean sheets very often. And I don't know, the timing of it with him, I say with his kind of extra responsibility, if you like, that has been given to him by the club. The club clearly trust Arteta, which is fine. So maybe if he did decide that he didn't want anything to do with Pepe, would from the club side, the club will probably back his judgment because they seem to be backing his judgment on everything else so far, don't they?
Well, not if he's not winning matches, you won't.
Well, yeah, I suppose long term, of course, but at the moment they seem to be.
I've got a little theory on this. I think that Arsenal have not played well since the 25 name squad being named, and when that was named, and leaving out Mesut Ozil for whatever reason, rights or wrongs, and that he is quite popular with the players, and I think that players have looked at that and thought, if he can do that to him, well, hold on a minute, I can do it to me. And I think that maybe Arteta coming out and saying for football reasons I've letting him out. Every single player in that team knows that it's not for football reasons. And I think that the players have just, having a little wobble with him. I'm not saying that he's losing the dressing room, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is there's something not quite right but by that decision. And I think that, you've got to understand this player's coming into training every day. Players, friends, you've got to go and talk to him. And then, he's not then in the team over the weekend. I don't think it's a good situation for the players, the manager and everything there. And it's no coincidence that since that 25 names squad was come out, we've won 1 and lost 3 in the league.
Yeah, only scored 1 goal as well.
Yeah, so I'm not saying it is, but that's my theory. I think it's
that
caused more.
That makes more sense, certainly in terms of looking at a sort of a point where maybe things started to change. That seems to coincide with that, doesn't it? So it could well be that. I mean, I put out in a video yesterday or the other day that there's no way that there's players in that Arsenal squad that would back a decision to leave Mesut Ozil out on footballing reasons when we're not creating any chances. I mean, how would you think Aubameyang will feel knowing that our most technically creative player probably in the group hasn't been selected for footballing reasons? He's not going to be happy with that, is he? And there'll be a few others. So yeah, I do think that may possibly have caused some issues, but we're not going to probably know, are we? Because it's not going to come out at this stage. We're just going to speculate and but at the end of the day, we can only really judge on what we see on the pitch on a weekly basis. And at the moment, as you said there, since that squad came out, the performances have dropped off quite sharply, quite quickly, actually, surprisingly so, because I've been quite shocked, actually, at how poor we've been since maybe the first couple of games of the season. I mean, I know the first home game wasn't great, but suddenly it seems to have gone downhill rapidly, doesn't it? And maybe that is, maybe it is then. Maybe you're right. I mean, it's certainly worth considering, I suppose. I mean, moving on to these young players that we've got now, I think maybe we all had really, really high hopes for a lot of them, didn't we? The group that's coming through, Nelson, Willock, Eddie Nketiah, Ainsley. We'll maybe leave Saka out for a second because I think he's maybe progressed at a faster rate than we anticipated. But do we feel that these young players have really progressed at the rate they should have? But bearing in mind, they've all played a lot of games in the first team over the last couple of seasons, some more than others, but they've all made quite a lot of appearances, plenty of appearances to have started to improve. And do we feel as though they are progressing at the rate we expected? I mean, Paul, if I come to you first on this one, how do you make about the progression of these young players?
I think it's been good, but I think some of them have been given more of a chance than others. I think Willock lately seems to be playing more in the first team. I think I think he's the one really that actually we could give a run of games, because I think he's got a real engine on him, and he's not an answer to that number 10, and he's certainly not a defensive midfielder either. He's one of those that's kind of a little bit of a box-to-box midfielder, if you like, and gets up and down, and he can do that for 90 minutes. And I've actually been quite impressed with his performances over the last couple of months. Nelson, I think Nelson deserves a little bit more of a run of games, potentially more in the Europa League. I don't think he's played as much as he could have done. I think even he deserves more of a shout over Willian at the moment. And then you've got Eddie. Eddie plays. I mean, certainly towards the end of the season, it looked like he was favouring Eddie over Laka, didn't he? For quite a while, he was starting games over Lacazette. He did that a little bit as well at the start of the season. I mean, Laka got a couple of goals in the first few games, but after then, he likes to switch between those two, doesn't he? Really, him and Laka and Ainsley. I think Ainsley's the one actually that he's been a bit unlucky in the sense that he can't really seem to nail down a spot in terms of a position on the pitch. He seems to be used a lot as a wing back, which I think he does a good job. But I think he's openly said it previously, isn't he, that he sees himself as more of a kind of an attacking midfielder, if you like, which he wants to play. But I think all four of them are progressing well. I think given the situation we're in, we could do with them progressing a little bit quicker, maybe to the same level as Saka. But I think I'm certainly not going to say anything negative about the group of youngsters that we've got coming through. I think all of them are worth sticking with for a little while, certainly, and just seeing how they do progress. But I think given the situation we're in, we need that to happen a little bit quicker, don't we?
Well, yeah, ideally. Like you said, I mean, if they were all progressing at the rate that Saka's progressed over the last year, we'd be flying, wouldn't we? I suppose everyone develops at different rates. And like you said, some have had a little bit more game time than others. I mean, Eddie's had quite a lot of chances, I think, in terms of minutes on the pitch, starting games and stuff like that. So I think they've had enough opportunities. And I think this is quite a crucial time now moving forward for some of these young players, because, they're getting 20, 21 years old now. They're not 18, 19-year-old now, are they? They've got 2 or 3 years experience in the first team, in and out of the squad, in and out of the team. So I think now's the time for them to really push. I mean, I know Andrew's a big, massive fan of these young players, aren't you, Andrew? I mean, do you still feel that they're progressing at the rate you would have expected them to maybe a year or so ago when some of them were kind of breaking through?
Personally, yeah. I mean, what we see of them, they are all really good quality players. They're obviously not getting a decent lengthy run in the team. But we've got to remember that every young player hasn't got to be, one of the most exciting, best players in the world. We are, a squad needs to be full of really good, useful, quality players. And that's what they are at the moment. And who knows where they could go sort of longer term. I mean, obviously, I'm mostly concerned about Maitland-Niles because he was persuaded to stay. But he's not played. I mean, I don't understand. He's not even in the Europa League. He's come on as a sub. And if he's not going to play, why didn't you just sell him to Wolves for 20 million? I don't understand that at all, because we all like Maitland-Niles. We all were desperate for him to stay when he was playing really well at the end of last season. And that I don't understand. On the side of Nketiah, I really like the kid, because I think, although he hasn't scored so far yet this season, apart from the Europa League, but I think he's come on in other ways. He looks more tough.
He scored against West Ham.
You know,
He scored against West Ham.
Oh yeah, you did. Sorry, yeah, beg your pardon. But he looks stronger. He looks more aggressive. He seems to bolt up a little bit, and he's got a better attitude. I think he's. I love his attitude at the moment. He's got that bit of devilment in him, bit of fire in his belly, a bit more like Ian Wright. I'll go back to that Leicester chance that it was an own goal, and he was really angry that Pepe it went in off the defender rather than the ball went to him, so he didn't score the goal. And I love that about him. I really love that devilment, and I'm pleased with him. And what could you ask for a better sort of understudy, centre forward than him? Really, he's Arsenal through and through. Been at the club since he was a kid. He does score goals, and he really tries hard. He doesn't, he leaves everything, doesn't leave anything on the pitch. He's closing down, non-stop running. So yeah, I'm happy with him. I don't really get the the criticism that he gets, because he's doing a great job for us. And if for the next year or so he's a bench, it's like a super sub type striker, then brilliant. We ain't got to buy one. I think he's a great squad player. Willock 100% should be on the bench, and Nelson. I think that, I don't know whether you guys saw the training video that came out today, quite a long one. It's Nelson looks so sharp. He's got such really good skills, and both him and Willock have shown their technical quality against lesser teams. Obviously, everyone has to say that as a caveat, but they can only play the teams that are in front of them. They've played exceptionally well in the Europa League, and again, creative players. Willock's obviously not the same style of player, but similar drawbacks to Pepe, because you have to take the rough with the smooth. But he is a goal-scoring threat from midfield, which we haven't got, and he gets in the right place at the right time in the box. Some of his finishes that he's done are outstanding, literally outstanding. Really composed, sharp finishes that he does. And we need him. We need him on the bench, and there's no excuse not to have him and Nelson on the bench. Now, I know that Nelson was injured for the last Europa League games, which is fair enough, but he's back now. So I don't understand why they both wouldn't be on the bench, personally. But I'm really happy with them, and I you know me, Richard. I can't wait for one other guy to come back into the first team fold as well, onto the bench.
Wouldn't be this guy, would it?
Yes. Just look at him. I love him. Absolutely love the kid, and I'm so happy that he's back fit, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play from the start in the next Europa League game, because there's no excuse for him not to play now, and he could be the answer to our creative problems as well. So he needs a chance, and great to see him back fit.
Yeah. What yourself, Leo? How are you kind of assessing some of these young players' progress over the last sort of year, 18 months or so?
Well, I think it's been a lot hit and miss. I think somewhere along the line you've got to have the opportunity, and I think that's been not given to him to a certain degree. Let's take Nelson, for instance. He'd have sat in there in the summer and thinking, right, I'm the backup to Pepe, and if anything happens with Pepe, I'm going to get the opportunity. Along comes Willian, so now all of a sudden it's even harder for him to get into the team. Much harder for him now to get in the team on a consistent basis. He's done very well, by the way, but at the end of the day, you're always going to get thrown at it. Oh, it's only Dundalk, or it's only Leeds in the cup, or it's only this and that. So there's always going to be a struggle there for him. But I've liked him. But if I'm going to be really honest with Nelson, I don't think he's kicked on to the way I expected him to, and that's because of lack of opportunities. I don't think he's been given a fair crack. That's my opinion. Yeah. When you look at that and then you assess that with someone like Eddie, who I think's done okay, as Andrew said and all that, but he's not going to be an Arsenal regular in my eyes. He's going to be a good squad player, but not a regular that's going to take us to winning trophy striker like that. But I think a fantastic backup striker, but has had loads of opportunities. Unfortunately, as you say, with Smith Rowe, injuries have played a key for him, because I think he would have played in these Europa League games. And there is a position, I think, in the team at this moment in time, if we're going to go with three in midfield, there's a position up for grabs. Now, whether that'll be Saka playing in that position, or Ceballos, or Willock, or or Smith Rowe. I think there's an opportunity then, and they've got to take that chance in the Europa League. So then you get on to your next thing. Well, has Willock took his chance in the Europa League? Yeah, too right he has. I felt, we haven't got one midfield player that scores goals. He scored goals. He looks dangerous. He creates goals by his penetrating runs into the box, which I would get own goals from. The reward for him was you stay at home. You watch it on telly, mate. You know what I mean? And I think to myself, well, okay, right, fair enough. So again, you get back to this continuity thing and that, and you go back on opportunities. I'm going to say it now. I'll have arguments with everybody about it, and then that. Also, a major problem that Arsenal have had is when you've got a player that comes into the team and plays his absolute skin out, can't play any better for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games. You end up winning the cup, you end up winning the Charity Shield, playing really, really well, and the reward is, I'm going to sell you to Aston Villa. And I don't think, whether you think he's a better goalkeeper or not, my point I'm making is, is you're going to say to one of these youngsters, you come in the team, it doesn't matter what you do or how well you play, as soon as so-and-so comes back, you're out. And I think that set up a thing where it didn't work with other managers. I can say like this down at Spurs with Pochettino, because he had the policy of if you play well, you keep your shirt. As soon as Harry Kane was fit, they chucked a player out who scored an hat-trick. What happens? Pochettino lost the dressing room. We all know what happens. I think at the end of the day, if you're playing really, really well, week in, week out, to the best of your ability, making no mistakes in that, how can you be dropped from a team? I don't see it. You know what I mean? So again, another player left out of the team through not footballing reasons. The reason that he was so was because we needed the money and off his trotting. Now, at the end of the day, I don't care if he was at the club for 5 years, 6 years and not doing nothing. You have to be lucky and get an opportunity at this football club. Like Smith Rowe, like Willock, like Eddie, they're all waiting and chomping at the bit for an opportunity. Sometimes it never comes. And I'll tell you one player that I can go on that. David Bentley was a great player in the youth teams at Arsenal. Could not get into the Arsenal first team because of a certain Robert Perez, a certain Freddie Lundberg. So in the end, he had to move. Opportunity didn't knock. But doesn't mean to say he's not a bad player. This kid's waited away, got his opportunity. His reward was out you go. And I think that these sort of decisions make a big thing. It's a big impact on what's happening now. I don't whether you agree with the number one or whatever. I think, by the way, Leno done nothing wrong to be left outside. But you know what it's like. We've all played football. I hope, I've played football when I was injured or suspended or something. You're going, I hope the team wins, but I hope the number 8 has a bad game. But if he was playing well, he's playing well every game. You think, if you've got a 3-game ban and he's man of the match in 3 games out of 3, I ain't going to expect to walk back in that side, because if I did walk back in the side, I think, well, if it can happen to me, it can happen to somebody else, And I just think it's just set a wrong sort of trend to what's been going on, and because of this, you said earlier on, Richard, which is a great point. Look at the team's dip from the Community Shield. How far it's dropped. Yeah, and I think that these are reasons why.
I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, can I just say one thing just to back that up? Because Leno should have been. Basically, I think that Martinez should have stayed until next summer, and they should have battled it out this season for the number 1 shirt. It should have just been given back to Leno. It was totally the wrong decision to make. And Martinez, I was gutted when he went, because he did everything right. And he never complained once all those years he was with the team. When he came in, my God, he took his chance. He couldn't have done it anymore. And Leno should have battled to get that shirt back.
It's not Leno's fault, by the way.
No, absolutely not.
I'm not blaming Leno or anything like that. I'm not blaming Leno.
Absolutely not. But it wasn't fair. It was not right. And we would be in a much better position now if that had happened, I think. If he'd have kept his place And we said,
It
no,
tells
we're
you
not
you've got
selling
to
you.
fight for the position, Andrew. It tells you you've got to fight for position, and if you fight for
Absolutely.
position and you do well, you're going to stay in this football team. But I look at it now with these
100%.
youngsters, and I think to myself, well, say for instance, let's take Smith Rowe. Well, if I play well, he's only going to bring Tobias back when he's fit, or Partey, or whatever. And I just lose a little bit of, desire to be a, it's all about opportunities. Take your opportunity. Everybody, I've been in football. When you get your opportunity, you've got to take it by the scruff of the neck. You don't get that opportunity, and when you get that opportunity, make it count.
Yeah, when I played football, I was the same. I played my heart out because we had a big squad when I was playing, and I wanted to keep my position. And of course, that's what you need. You need that all competition throughout the squad. And when you get players like Willock who put in, 10 out of 10 performances, I don't care what the opposition was. It was the Europa League, and he took the game by the scruff of the neck, and he changed the game completely on its head and played out his skin. And like you said, Lee, what does he get as a reward? Nothing. Didn't even get on the bench for the Premier League game next match. And it ain't good. It ain't good enough. I'm sorry, but that really annoys me. Really annoys me because we've got these quality players, and they're just going to go fritter away to other clubs without us seeing the best of them, and we'll get another Gnabry situation that we'll be talking about in 10 years' time again, like bloody Serge Gnabry. What happened there? So the same thing will happen if we don't give them a fair crack of the whip. And we look at our front line. In the last game, it probably had an average age of about 103. Between a lot of them.
Combined,
we need to blood these youngsters. We need to.
Another good point just come off the top of my head is a certain player from Brazil called Martinelli played really well in 3 games when Aubameyang was left out. What was his reward?
I know. Don't get me started on that.
So these are little worrying little things that when you're a player, you're looking in the dressing room, especially if you're a player, say like Mesut Ozil. And I said this the other night. You're sitting in the dressing room and he's not happy. But you're happy. You're in the team. You're doing well and all that. But he turns around and says, "Oh, look what he's done to me. That's bad. Yeah, terrible about that. Well, look what he's just gone and done to Martinez. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, that weren't good, was it? Then he goes and does it to Willock. So now you go around, and that weren't very good, was it, Willock? So all of a sudden you've got Willock now. Yeah, I ain't too happy about that. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden he does it to you, and then you've got Mesut Ozil and Willock going, cool, you know what I mean? That's a bit hard. Oh, yeah. And all of a sudden, what have you got? You start getting a little bit of anarchy, and all of a sudden you start losing the dressing room. And that is what I'm saying. So you've got to nip it in the bud and do things properly. You've got, always players said to me, or managers always, and Mikel must know this as well, treat a player like you'd want to be treated yourself. And has that been the case? Not in my eyes.
I think the reason for that, though, Lee, don't know if you agree, but that is because of his inexperience as a manager and his worry about getting everything right. Because he will know all that stuff that you just said, because he's how long ago was it he retired? Only 3-4 years since he retired playing. So he will know what's going on in the changing room and how players are, because he's that close in age to a lot of them. I think he's too worried of losing, don't you? Because of his inexperience.
The other thing is when you're a coach, right? And you're a player, you get left out. It's not the coach that's making the decision. So when it was at Man City, it was Pep. You know what I mean? So say he left out Torre, just saying Torre all of a sudden. What's he get? He goes down to Mikel Arteta and says, he's left me out and all that. Well, yeah, not my decision though, was it? You know what I mean? Now, as the manager, the buck stops with him. He's not at the one side.
Yeah.
So, when you go up to it, why have you left me out?
Well, that's his inexperience. That's what I'm saying. He hasn't dealt with that before, is he? Yeah, that's the problem.
It's a tough thing to leave players out of football clubs, even semi-pro level, or even in the vets. If you play on a Sunday, you know what I mean. You can see the old man when I go on the vets, watching the vets team. We've got a decent vets team, and he's looking at and 16 players turn up. He's going, oh God, I've got to leave one out of all that. It's not a nice job. But if you're getting paid millions or you're not, it's still a tough job. And maybe it don't sit well with him. But part of managing, If you want to be the manager and the top, you have to make those decisions. You have to be ruthless, but also kind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, totally agree. I mean, just quickly, just going back to the goalkeeping situation. Do you not maybe feel that Leno's looked a bit shaky this season, hasn't he, so far? Do you not think? Do you reckon this is maybe part of the reason why? Because of all that went on with Martinez and stuff like that? Because he hasn't looked the same, has he, this season as he did last season? Before his injury, he was brilliant, wasn't he? Let's be honest, Leno was brilliant.
No
but
competition now, is he? He won't get dropped because there's no competition anymore.
Well, yeah, is that the reason as well? I don't know. He's just not looked confident, and you'd imagine he'd be more confident knowing he's not going to get dropped. But he's looked I don't think he's looked confident personally, but I don't know what the situation is. But his performances have certainly dropped off quite a lot since before his injury, because he was last season he was brilliant, wasn't he? He kept us in so many games, and then he's come back now this season and he's looked very, very shaky, I think, so far. I mean, whether it's still the injury playing a part, I don't know, but I'm not sure. I mean, that decision's made now. There's nothing we can do about it. We've got Leno and Martinez has gone, but yeah, I agree with Lee to the fact that could well have caused a few problems in the dressing room, like some of the other decisions that's been going on, because clearly something's happened, doesn't it, to change the whole. The players aren't enjoying. I don't appear as though they're enjoying their football now. They were. Towards the end of last season, that was the one thing you noticed, that the smiles were back on their faces when they were playing in games, and you could see they were enjoying it, and the performances kind of reflected it. And now I get the feeling that they're not enjoying it. They don't look as though they're playing with the smiles on their faces. And, is that to do with the way that we're playing, or the system that we're playing, or is it to do with some of these issues that Lee's mentioned in the changing room going on? We don't know, do we? We're just going to have to see what happens. I mean, in terms of what's coming up now, I mean, we've coming back from this international break, we go into some really, really a tough run of games, don't we? We've got Leeds away. I know they've lost a couple now, but that's going to be a difficult game. Wolves at home, that's going to be a difficult game. And then, of course, the big one away at Spurs. I mean, looking at those three games, the way this season's gone, I wouldn't be surprised if we won all three of them or if we lost all three of them. But, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, what are you thinking about those games, Paul? Do you think we can come back from this break, obviously having played quite poorly the last few weeks overall, and do you think we can come back with these tough games and really change the way we've been playing, the whole mindset and attitude of it? Do you think we're going to do that, or can you see these three games being very difficult for us?
I think, in my opinion, it all depends on that Leeds game. I think you go away to Leeds and you lose that, there's going to be a knock-on effect going into those other two games. If we can come back and get our heads down and maybe get a decent result at Leeds, then obviously you bounce into the other two with a bit more confidence. But like you say, you can see us winning all three. You can see us losing all three. Just at the moment, you're just not too sure, not really too sure what you're going to get, really. So I don't know. People are crying out for changes in the team. People are crying out for Aubameyang to be playing through the middle. People are crying out for Pepe to be playing more. So he's got some decisions to make. I don't want people jumping on a bandwagon, really. He is inexperienced, Arteta. He is going to make mistakes. I think to a certain degree, we have to expect that. And going back to the players and looking at people like Pepe, you're saying that we got to take the rough with the smooth. I think we got to do that with Arteta as well. I think he's definitely going to make mistakes, but for me personally, I wouldn't swap him for anyone in the world right now, Arteta. I really wouldn't, because I think he's got the makings of being a great coach. I think there are things he could be doing better. And I think going back to Lee's point about the man management of it all, I think maybe it looked like he was doing that quite well when he first came in. And he was, like you said, he was putting smiles back on players' faces. Everyone was looking like they were happy to be playing for him. And I think they're still coming out and saying that. They're still coming out and saying we believe what he's trying to do. But yeah, it's just a couple of things. And that the whole Ozil situation and him being left out of the squad, for me, that had a more detrimental impact more off the pitch than it did on the pitch. Personally, I would have certainly included him in the squad, but I was a bit more worried about how that was going to blow up in and around the squad, and it does seem like that's definitely had an effect off the pitch as opposed to just on it. So definitely, but we don't know whether that was out of Arteta's hands. We don't know whether they've they've said, look, we don't want him in the squad. He's obviously. I'm not convinced he's made that decision to leave him out.
I'm not either. Not on the reasons that he stated in that press conference a couple of weeks ago. That just doesn't add up to me. You can't say you've left a creative player out on footballing reasons when the team aren't creating any chances. I say 92nd out of the 92 Football League teams of chances created in the second half of games this season. So you can't justify that saying it's football reasons. I'm not saying Ozil should have been playing every week, but surely he would have offered us in certain games some sort of something to give us a little bit more of a chance to score some goals. You'd imagine, wouldn't you? So I don't buy that at all. That reason is probably out of his hands. But
I think as well, if the club are putting Arteta in that position where he's having to sit there and say that, that's bang out of order as well, really. For a manager that's coming in, he's trying to do the right things. He's trying to make us solid. He's trying to get us points. He's trying to make us win games.
Yeah.
He had such a big job just trying to bring everyone back together again and everyone being on the same page. And he did that to start with. And now it looks like he's been thrown curveball after curveball with more so with this Ozil situation, really. Because like you say, there's no way he's made that decision to leave him out, and certainly not for football reasons. So the club putting him in that position is not fair in my opinion. But going back to the original question, I think it all depends on that Leeds game. I think if we can get a decent result there, hopefully keep a clean sheet, then we can go into the next couple of games with a bit of confidence and maybe pick something up. But I'm a bit worried if we come back from a 2-week break, having played the way we did against Villa, we lose against Leeds. You just don't know what's going to happen after that, if that's the case, really. Be a long way back.
No, I agree. I mean, so what then? How many points can you see us getting in them next 3 games in? What do you out of 9? What can you see realistically?
Who was the second game? We got Leeds. What was the one in between that and Spurs?
Wolves at home.
See, I'm more concerned about us at home than I am away. Because when you look at what we did at Old Trafford, I know people are having a pop about how we've played the last 3 games, but that Man United game was in the middle of those poor performances. And how good were we at Old Trafford? You couldn't have played that game any better tactically, in my eyes, if he tried. He did everything right. I know we were lucky with a penalty, a bit lucky with a penalty, but we had more than enough chances to put that game to bed. So, I'm going to go 6. I think we'll win 2. I think we'll drop points against 1, as long as it ain't Spurs.
I was just going to say, it better not be Spurs that we drop the points to.
No.
But I mean, if we lose the next 3 games, will you change your mind about Arteta? There's a question for you.
No. He needs time.
And Luke has put there, he thinks 3 points out of the next 9. I mean, Lee, what are your kind of thoughts on these? Obviously, they're important games now, all 3 of these, aren't they? Massive. It's a massive part of the season, I think, not only for us as a club, but I think for Arteta as well, to really step up now. Do you think that's what he's going to do? Can you see us getting some positive results these next 3 games, as difficult as they look?
I couldn't agree with what Paul said. I think, it is... and next 3 out of the 4 games, by the way, are I think with the Europa League, are away from home. So we've only got that 1 home game in the next 4. The away form, I don't think, has been an issue all season. I know we've lost a couple of games against Liverpool and Man City, but I felt that we've been in those games. So I'm like Paul. I feel that going to Leeds, I feel more confident with the Leeds game and the Spurs game than I do the Wolves game, because I don't think we need to change systems, change personnel, or change the style of play in those games, because I think if we play like that, let Leeds come on to us, I think, which is what they will do, I think that we've got more than enough to be able to hit them on the break, particularly if Partey's fit. The same with Spurs. Spurs, will go for it against us, and hopefully we can exploit their weaknesses at the back. Wolves will come to Arsenal, and all of our weaknesses they can expose. So it's a real difficult one, So. I totally agree with what Paul says. I think if we beat Leeds, I think then I'll fancy us getting sang against Wolves, whether we've got enough to win that game. and Tottenham, I think we've got enough to get sang out of those games. So I'm going to say we'll beat Leeds, we'll draw with Wolves, and we'll draw with Spurs. I think that's what we're... would that be good enough? No, it wouldn't. We We need to win all three if we're going to be pushing for top four. That's a must because of the defeat now against Villa. We've got to go to one of the big boys and win again. You know, that's why it was a disappointment, you know, beating Man United and coming home and losing. So we've got to sort the home form out. So I think that, you know, the only thing I disagree with Paul, I know that he's not going to change his mind. I think if perish the thought that if we do lose all three games, then I think that Mikel Arteta would be under some sort of pressure, particularly then if we lost to Spurs. And I think there would be under a lot of pressure, particularly when you've got someone like Pochettino in the background and all that. Like I can see like it mounting. But I think the boys will. I think Sunday will be a blessing in disguise because I think it'd be a big wake up call for everybody at the club, Arteta included. And I think that we'll come out against Leeds. And if we don't, get the old tin hats on, boys, because you're going to need them.
Yeah, we definitely will. So I mean,
this baseball cap's made of metal.
I mean, it's funny because obviously Paul said 6 points, which includes a defeat, whereas you said 5 without losing. And I actually feel if we didn't lose any of those 3 games, I'd be delighted with that actually, because you know,
it's not a better points ratio.
No, it isn't a better points ratio, but we've already lost 4 games, and if we lose another one already, that's 5 defeats. I think, whereas, you know, even if we do maybe draw 2 of these, even if you drew all 3 of them, it wouldn't be a disaster. Yeah, we need to win games, but I think we need to not lose as well. And I know that's maybe one of the problems that we've had in the way we've been playing not to lose. But at this moment in time, with, you know, certainly losing 3 of the last 4, I don't think we can really afford to lose any more for the time being, and these are tough games, aren't they? I mean, what do you think, Andrew? These next 3 games, they are difficult games to come at the wrong time, maybe with everything that's been going on, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I'm delighted to say that. Well, firstly, actually, once again, I totally agree again, making it a boring show with Paul and Lee on everything they've just said. Basically, I think you pretty much stole my thunder, Lee, on most things you said. But I'm pleased to say that all of my negativity is gone now. I've got it all out of the way. And I want to sort of bring a little bit of reality to the situation as far as I'm concerned as well, with regards to that result against Villa. And I think that we have had a poor start to the season, but I think it's been blown up out of all proportion. And I think that the Liverpool game could have gone a different way. I mean, Lacazette missed that easy chance to make it 2-2, you know, for a start. The same with Man City. I think we should have won that game personally. I think we were really quite unlucky with that. Leicester, we had the goal disallowed in the first couple of minutes, which would have changed the whole perspective of the game when we lost that. And Villa were just brilliant on the day, and they completely hit us from the first minute and knocked the stuffing out of us. And they deserve all the credit. I think we had a very poor game, but I think that was because of Villa. Yeah, we can't take anything away from them. They literally, in the first minute, they scored a brilliant goal, which should have stood. You know, it was offside by the letter of the law, but Leno ain't going to get anywhere near that shot. It was an amazing goal. Brilliant. And they just, from that moment on, they completely controlled the game and put us on the back foot. And it was one of those days. And they did the same to Liverpool. Don't forget, scoring more than twice the amount of goals and then scored against us. So you just have to take your hat off to a team sometimes and say, fair play, mate. You had a great game. And so I think that things are being blown out of proportion. But everything that we've said about Arteta regarding concerns or worries are all completely and utterly valid. But at the end of the day, I do think that he is still an excellent manager. And I've said on my own show, Paul, you know, a few times, I would not swap him for any manager in the world at the moment. You know, I've got so much belief in the guy of being a great coach in the future. But he's inexperienced and he is going to make mistakes. And we just have to put up with that a little bit. But I've still got a lot of faith in him. And I think that we are going to go through the next 3 games unbeaten. I'd say 2 wins and a draw. But last season, Lee, I think we had some good results, obviously, after Arteta took over. But my favourite, probably the best result of last season was the win away to Wolves when we beat them 2-0. I think it was such a good result, that was, and a good performance.
Yeah, it was.
It really filled me full of so much confidence, that did. But yeah, they are probably the toughest of the three in lots of ways. I know it's a stupid thing to say, but I think that we'll automatically raise our game against Spurs, and the fact that our manager used to play for us and played in North London derbies is going to be a help in that sort of situation, and it could be a good result there. But I think that out of all of them, the most likely draw probably is the Wolves game. But I'm quite confident about all of them. I'd say that I'll get 7 points out of the 9, and I'd be really happy with that, personally.
I think we'd all be really happy with that.
Yeah.
We're going to get a goal. Let's face it. It wasn't another thing you said, Lee. It's something that I mentioned on my show on Wednesday. It is a really, really good time to have got that result against Villa with the international break, because although what Arteta said, saying I want to have a match again tomorrow, it's a great thing because he's going to be stewing on that result for 2 weeks. He's going to be losing sleep. You know what he's like with regards to being like having an elite mentality, and he will be leaving no stone unturned to try and rectify this issue. I believe that. I really do. And I think that the 2 week international break could be a real good blessing in disguise that defeat came when it did, because I think he will be really stewing on it. I really do. So we will undoubtedly get a real reaction, I think, against Leeds when we come back next Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need a reaction, don't we?
Can I chuck a scenario at you? All three of you, actually. Mm-hmm. Say, I know, obviously, Andrew, you said it's been a poor start to the season, but you look at that Villa game.
Results-wise, yeah.
Yeah. But you look at that Villa game and you look at the Leicester game. Had we won one of them and drawn one of them in the first 8 games, having gone away to City, Liverpool and United, you'd be saying that's a great start to the season.
Well, if we'd beaten Villa and drawn with Leicester, we'd be top.
That's the point I made. Regarding the Liverpool game could have gone different. The Man City game could have gone different. The Leicester game could have gone different. We scored a perfectly good goal against Leicester that everyone forgets. It should not have been disallowed. And then they would have had to change their plan for the match after going behind within the first 2 minutes. Leicester, the match wouldn't have played out the way it did.
No,
and we lost Partey the second half against Villa. We lost David Luiz, who was having an incredible game against Leicester at half time. Basically, he had to go off immediately after the restart. We've had a lot of bad luck, and I'm not blaming that at all. I'm just saying that I'm not saying that I'm disappointed with the way that we've been playing throughout the season, and sometimes you do have to take your hat off to the opposition. People forget that they want us to dominate games for 90 minutes, and they're not happy if we don't. But we've got to remember that this season, was more than ever in the Premier League, the results have just been going mental in the first few weeks. Teams have turned over other teams really big time. And have massive defeats. Liverpool, Man City, they all have. But we've got to. I'm not saying we've got to expect that, but every now and then, a team are going to turn up and play their hearts out and have a cracking game against us, and just win. You have to take when that happens, you have to take your hat off sometimes. But I'm not really down, and I think this is what I said. I think it's been overblown just slightly because we always overreact as fans. But I think it has been. We had a slight overreaction after that result on Sunday, because I don't think it is all doom and gloom, and I think we've got the bones of a really, really good team. We are still a couple of plays short. We all know that, but our manager is only short of experience, because I think the quality that he's got and the ceiling that he's got of being a great coach is there for all to see. And I don't think we should just throw that away at the moment, just after one bad result against Villa.
No, I think my point was, it's just such fine margins, isn't it, between being a decent start to the season, a really good start to the season, and being awful.
Although, I mean, I did say though earlier on in the season, after the West Ham home game and then the Sheffield United home game, that when you're not playing well, as we didn't in either of those 2 games, and we did scrape victories, and you think, well, that's not a bad sign, but you can't keep doing that. You have to start playing better. And I think for me, whatever the results are these next 3 games, right, we could, as I said, we could potentially win all 3. We could potentially lose all 3. I'm more going to be looking at how we play, what reaction that we've had from the Villa game. Even if we lose to Leeds, if we've shown a reaction and we've given it everything we've got, and we've maybe been unfortunate, or Leeds have just played well on the day. They've got players to do that. You know, they can beat anyone on their day. So, you know, but if we go there and we put in a performance away from home again, if we then follow that out with a good performance against Wolves, whatever the result, and obviously we have to play well at Spurs anyway, we know that. So, you know, if we put in 3 good performances, even if we get just 3 points from them games or less, you got to say, well, at least there's positive signs there, which would be better for me than if we go to Leeds, play poorly and scrape a victory, and then maybe scrape a draw against Wolves playing badly, because you can't keep doing that. We're not a good enough team to get away with that. You know, Man City might be able to, Liverpool might be able to, but we can't. If we consistently play poorly, we're going to lose games, and that's what's happened, unfortunately, in recent weeks, isn't it? And that's for me, that's the biggest thing I want to see in the next 3 games, is that the performances improve from what they have been certainly over the last 4 or 5 games. Man United apart, that was a good performance, as we said, but that's been a one-off in the last 3 or 4 performances. Really, we've not really fired.
You can't knock the West Ham result though either, because straight after we beat them, they went and got a 3-0 win and a 4-0 win against Southampton, who were right at the top of the table. And,
I agree. It's just more our performances, though, isn't it? Our performance against West Ham was poor. And yes, West Ham played well after that. But
absolutely, but they were decent results at the time when you look back on it. But
decent results.
Arteta is not going to be happy himself, and he said that himself at the post-match press conference. He knows that we're playing poorly up front. He knows that, and that's what the best thing about that result is, that he is going to have to do something. He's got to change it, and he's not oblivious to all the criticism that he's getting, and he will be the one that will want to rectify it more than all of us lot as fans. Even he's got his reputation to protect. He's not even got a reputation yet. He's trying to build one, so he's going to want to do the best he possibly can. I've got no doubt that we will have an improved performance, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope so. I mean, it has to be, doesn't it? It has to be an improvement. I mean, it can't get a lot worse, let's be honest. You know, no matter how badly we play, it's probably not going to be worse than the Villa performance, is it? Let's be honest. So, but yeah, I want to see a reaction in terms of the performance, definitely. I mean, just sort of touching on Arteta again, I mean, we've all mentioned it already about his inexperience as a head coach or a manager, whatever way you want to look at him. So do you not feel that maybe we missed a trick with not getting somebody a little bit more experienced to come in alongside him, maybe? I know this is going to sound mental to you guys probably, and I think it sounds mental when I say it myself, but I thought this the other day, that actually having Emery with Arteta underneath him to begin with, for the language barrier. No, just listen. The language barrier. I think Emery found it difficult to communicate, right? Arteta could have filled that void in. Arteta's very good defensively as a coach. Emery's team scored a lot of goals, even though we let in a lot of goals, and maybe that combination could have worked. Now, I'm not saying that would have been a long-term thing. Maybe it would have given Arteta some experience of not necessarily them being first and second, if you like, but maybe almost a joint venture, maybe you're bringing Arteta in alongside Emery when he was struggling with the language barrier. I don't know whether Arteta would have wanted to do that. And then maybe Arteta could have got a bit more experience, and then he would have been ready to take the reins on his own, maybe in a year or two. I don't know, not necessarily Emery, but that's just an example. Do you not feel that maybe he may have benefited or may still benefit from getting someone with a bit more experience coming in and helping him, even maybe Arsene Wenger to a degree? Just somebody with a bit more experience. This is a big job. We know it's a big job. We've said it's a big job. And, you know, it seems as though maybe he's struggling a little bit with the man management side, as we mentioned, and a few other aspects that I think he needs help with. I do. I think he's a great coach, and I think he has got the potential to really take us forward. But I do feel at this moment in time, in a difficult period, he maybe needs more help. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, what do you think about that, Paul? Do you think maybe he could benefit, or we could benefit as a club from him getting some help from someone more experienced?
I think the weird thing is he was doing everything right when he took over. So towards the back end of last season to the start of this season, it's very black and white. It's almost seems as if it's changed.
Why? This is what we.
This is the reason that I do think the club have put Arteta in difficult situations, and I'll keep going back to it in terms of Mesut Ozil, and I think Lee's touched on it. That's going to cause ripples through the squad, and I think whether or not they're all looking at Arteta, I'd like to think they're clever enough to think that wasn't Arteta's choice, really. But I would like to see someone more experienced next to him. I don't think he would have come to Arsenal as a number 2 or even joint with anyone else. I think he would have stayed at City. But I would like to see someone come in with a bit more experience next to him, just to help guide him. But I think the job's bigger than even he realised, really. We all know how big it is, but I think there's so much more to it than just what's going on a pitch. It's huge.
So now he's seen that, and now he's understanding how difficult it is. This could be a good time to say, you know what, I need some help. I need a little bit of help here to really be able to make that transition. Perhaps, I mean, if it was going to get someone in with more experience, who would your choice be, perhaps, to come in and do that job, even if it's just a temporary job, just until Arteta can get a bit more experience of it? Hello, Russ.
I can't even really think off the top of my head who's out there that you could bring in, really. But for me, I mean, you look at someone like Steve Bold. I mean, whether or not, I mean, he was Arsene Wenger's number 2 for years, but everybody kind of said that he was not so much a puppet. But when we weren't defending well, you've got someone like Steve Bold that was an unbelievable defender that knows. He was a member of that famous back five. He was a great defender. So the fact that he wasn't able to stamp any of that on Arsene Wenger's team maybe says something about how much power maybe Arsene Wenger had. But I think Steve Bold, really, you could look at someone like that. Potentially, you could work with him. But I don't think defensively we've got so much of an issue anymore. Now the issues really are going forward. But I don't know. I'm on the fence in the sense that I want Arteta to succeed on his own, and whether that means us riding a couple of rough seasons, hit and miss, a bit up and down. But I think if we stick with him and everyone gets behind him, I think we'll come out of it in the next 18 months, 2 years, in a much, much better place than we are now.
No, I mean, you can't really argue with that. I mean, what about yourself, Andrew? Do you think he maybe could do with some help, or would you think that maybe Paul's right, that he could just ride it out and get the experience as he goes along and make the improvements maybe a little bit slower than perhaps we anticipated initially?
Yeah, I mean, well, firstly, Richard, the Emery suggestion, I mean, come on, you're better than that. Seriously. But first appointment he made was Steve Brown, and he's a very experienced assistant. Yeah, it's a really good appointment. And let's face it, when we won the FA Cup and we're holding the cup aloft, we weren't thinking he needed any help then, were we? I mean, and we're only like a few games down the road now. So yeah, I don't think like a pair works. I mean, no, I don't think that works. So we just need to give him time. And I don't think so. I think he's got enough knowledge. He just needs to build it up and experience. And he's got people he can lean on. What's the guy's name who works for, who's off with Wales at the moment as well? I can't remember his name.
The one that Mourinho had a pop at the other day.
Yeah. I can't remember his name. He's a very experienced guy as well. His name escapes me, apologies. But I'm quite comfortable with his backroom team. And he's not been shy in bringing people in when he needed them. So I just think we need to give it all time to settle down and start getting more consistent results, because we haven't got the full team that we need to mount a title challenge. We all know that as well.
No.
So we are going to get hit bumps in a row. So just give it time, just be a little bit of patience. And I know it's hard because we all get angry after a bad result, because that's the drawback of being a football fan, isn't it? But we'll get there. We will get there. I agree with Paul.
What about Mertesacker?
Yeah. Great guy.
Mertesacker, because they played together as well, didn't they? So they joined the club at the same time, actually.
One thing is, I'm actually not convinced about, as much as I absolutely adore the guy, I'm not convinced Steve Bold should be sticking around for too much longer. No. I do really, really like Mertesacker. I think he's got the right attitude. But Steve Bold is not doing a good job with the under-23s at the moment. They're right near the bottom of the league. I think they've got 3 points out of 8 or 9 games or something like that. Don't quote me exactly, but it's somewhere along those lines. Second bottom last time I looked. I don't think he's doing a good enough job there. And he's obviously been with the club for many years as our Arsene's assistant. And he became Arsene's assistant during Arsene's sort of worst time, really, the last couple of years when we didn't qualify for the Champions League. So I think it might be time to maybe replace him. And I don't like saying that because Boldy's a legend. I love the bloke, but I don't think he's doing a good enough job. So maybe you could change him.
We did pinch all the under 23 players, so the ones that are any good, they're all they're all with the first team now.
That's true,
but he's got a lot of good talented ones come through in the end as well. But he should be doing better than they are. They really should.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, what about yourself, Lee? Do you think we just need to ride this out with Arteta for a bit, or do you think he maybe could do with a bit more help in certain aspects?
Couple of things. Great points by everybody there, but a couple of things is David O'Leary was touted to come in at board level, and that was blocked for some unknown reason. Which I think that somewhere along the line you need someone that's going to be up there for you, batting for you, if you know what I mean, in the boardroom. Yeah. So I feel that was a missed opportunity. Freddie was there, of course, until the end of last season. He's not been there this season, so I think there is a room for somebody in there, and I believe a Tony Adams or a Dennis Bergkamp, sort of someone that knows what it's like to win things at Arsenal, knows what it's like to be an Arsenal player, knows the standards it's set. So just behind the scenes, you know, if things are not going well, look, this is how Arsenal should be playing. This is the standards of this football club, which I think have been allowed to diminish year in, year out. So you need to get people in there that go, oh, this is not how it is. This is not how it's done. And move it for there. So I would like to see a Bergkamp or a Tony Adams come in there and all that, like, you know. With Steve Bold, regarding Steve Bold's job is not to win football games at that level. It's to get players come through. So if we get two or three players in the next year or so come through from the under 23s, then he's doing his job. So that's how I see that. But I totally agree with what Andy's saying there. He's not been. He is a legend, isn't he? Like, and I feel like, you know, he hasn't quite lived up to those legendary status. So, does it mean bringing in an old player and all that? I think it does. I think it's important. I really do. I think he needs to have the fabric of the club. You know, what players are, what it's like. You know, Steve Rounds apparently, I know this off, you know, for close hand, is a very, very good coach. You know, so speaking very highly of all that. So, and it was a great point just made a little while ago, saying that when we was winning the FA Cup, no one was questioning our coaching staff then. You know, I see the thing is when you're playing in cup games and you know, the one-offs, the league is a different animal. You've got to be more consistent, and that is why the best teams win the league, because what the league does, it shows you your weaknesses. It will bring up your weaknesses. Over 38 games, it will show you faults, and it will show you the weaknesses of Mikel Arteta. It will also show up the weaknesses of the players. And I think that's what's happening at the moment. And it is important that they ride these through. There was a question here just coming up there: if Arsenal lose their next 3 games, should you sack Arteta? For me, he's got credit in the bank for the FA Cup. He's got credit. I think at the end of the day, there's credit in there. You know, the guy has won the FA Cup. It's not easy to win trophies, and he's gone and done it in his first season. So, you know, give. And I've seen people disrespecting that he's won the FA Cup. Come on, you know what I mean? That's a great thing. And it wasn't just winning the FA Cup by beating, you know, having a little bit of luck going down the line. We beat teams in the FA Cup that were top class teams, top class. The one thing I will say about Arteta, and I feel that I need to say this on a positive note, is that we're all of a sudden, when people say, oh, there's no improvement, or we're this and that, and it seems like I've been bashing him a little bit. Since he's come in, we've started to beat the big teams. We've beaten Man United away. We've beaten Liverpool. We've beaten Manchester City. We've beaten Chelsea. What other manager has done that, like, you know what I mean, over the course of the season? We've gone to Liverpool in the Cup and beat them on penalties. We've gone to Leicester and won in the Cup. You know, unfortunately, we've got bleeding Man City in the next round, but there's nothing to stop us going there and doing that. So there are things that you've got to look on and say, right, they're the good things. So when you can beat teams like that, there's no reason when I look at Wolves, Leeds and Spurs that we can't do the same. Yeah. So see how it is after those 3 games. If they have lost those games, I'm not saying that we should. If we've lost those 3 games and he's carried on playing the same team, Lacazette up front, Aubameyang on the left and the back 3 and things like that, and he's lost all 3 games without changing things, then I'm going to be, well, hold on, things could be a little bit wrong here. But say if he changes the system, changes the style, and we're unlucky, I don't think it depends how we lose those 3 games. If we are to lose those 3 games, I'll be making any judgment on him. But this moment in time, I'd still keep the faith.
Yeah, go on, Andrew.
Yeah, I was going to say, make another point before I've got to go, unfortunately, in a second. But a couple of points. He took charge of his first game on December the 26th, which was less than 11 months ago. Lost 3 months as well because of the shutdown. And he's not had a pre-season at all to work with these players on the training pitch. The only time he's had on the training pitch really is between games, which is like 3 days. So he's got like a warm down session, and then a light session before the next game. And he's straight from one to another. And when he joined the club, it was the worst time possible at the Christmas fixture list as well. He's not had any decent quality time with the players on the training pitch. So you've got to give him that, that as well. He's not had the easiest start in his management career, for God's sake.
No.
We've got to take that into account because that is a big thing. So just lay off him and let him do his job for a little while. That's the main thing I'd say. Like you said, Lee. I mean, God, when you actually think about it properly and logically, that he won the FA Cup. Taking all that into account, what I've just said, unbelievable. I mean, he did it the hard way as well. With the teams we've beaten. And I'll tell you now, I honestly think, and I've been saying this for a while, I think our name is on the Carabao Cup as well, which is not we're not aiming at that. I just think we're going to win that as well. I think we'll do over Man City. Look at the teams we've beaten in that as well. Leicester, Liverpool, the last 2 rounds. We've got Man City now coming up. I wouldn't put money against us beating Man City and going on to win that cup, and already have the first piece of silverware in the cabinet in February or whenever the final's going to be. So yeah, I'm happy with the way things are going. Not with the results, but I'm happy with the way things are going under Arteta. So I'm going to keep the faith, and I do think he's the right man for the job. I wanted to get that in though before I've got to go because I'm overrun as it is, so
no problem. Just before you go, Andrew, where can people find you then on social media, on your channel and all that?
Yeah, actually, just have one quick plug because it's a really important show coming up on Sunday. It's From Dial Square to Where on YouTube. Please give us a watch, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. But on Sunday, got at 8 o'clock. There's a mental health special, which is. And I can actually almost feel and see people rolling their eyes, when I say those. I don't care. It's a really important thing to me. It's something that's very, very important, close to my heart. I've been going through it. I've been wanting to do this show for, quite a long time, quite a few weeks. And the reason I haven't, and it keeps getting postponed, is because I'm actually going through that right now, in my life. And it's something that is affecting, so many thousands of people at the moment throughout the UK and, millions across the world because of this pandemic. It's like a silent killer in itself, and people don't really sort of think about that's going on within this pandemic. People being locked, in lockdown, elderly people not being able to get visits from their family from one end of the country to another, maybe having to live on their own. The people's lives have turned upside down, and you can't go out, you can't go and see friends as normal and all that sort of stuff. And people must be suffering terribly at the moment, like, I'm sure they are. So I'm doing an open forum where I would want as many people as possible to join in the chat. Even if you don't, just have a listen. And if we can help some people with the guests that I've got coming on who are, sufferers and sort of people that have got more knowledge than I have in the field, then I don't, if I can help one person, then I'll be happy. So yeah, if we can get as many people as possible to watch it on Sunday. I'm not doing it for anything like bloody subscribers or anything like that. I'm doing it because it's a subject close to my heart. So I want not just Arsenal fans, just all football fans in general. Be great to get them on board, and I'll be sending out a couple of tweets over the weekend. And if you can get as many people retweeting that as possible for me, I'd be really grateful as well. And on Twitter, I'm at From Dial Square. If you give us a follow there, then you'll see those tweets that I I send out over the weekend.
Fantastic. I'm sure we'll all be watching
Good
that.
luck with
that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Nice
brilliant. Yeah, so thanks for coming on again, Andrew. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, likewise.
Positivity.
Cheers, Andrew.
Cheers, mate. Really good to see you again, mate.
So, yeah.
Paul.
I'll probably see you
Hey,
Sunday.
mate.
Yeah, take care. Thanks for having me on. Take care. Bye-bye.
No problem. Speak to you
Yeah,
soon.
mate.
Well, that's Andrew. I say from Dial Square to Where. Good show that's going to be on Sunday, actually. Important issue as well. So make sure that you all tune in for that. Just before we finish here, I couldn't not mention the England game last night. And mainly, of course, the performance of our very own Bukayo Saka, of course. I mean, what a fantastic performance he gave for England last night. I mean, what are we making of that? I mean, he was brilliant, wasn't he? What a fantastic young player he is. I mean, he's the best player we've produced for our academy probably since the likes of David Rocastle. You know, I honestly really believe there's nothing how far he can take his career, I don't think. I mean, what did you make of his performance last night, Paul, for England? Saka is brilliant.
He was superb. There was a reason he got man of the match when he was absolutely brilliant. I still can't figure out what his best position is because he can play anywhere down that flank, can't he? And he's brilliant. He can play fullback and he's brilliant. He can play wing back and he's brilliant. He can play as part of a front three and he's brilliant at that as well. So that can be a help and a hindrance for him. That's the only thing I would say. I think it'd be good. I think for me, he's more dangerous going forward. So if Arteta is going to stick with playing with that three at the back, then obviously we're going to have wing back. So he's probably going to be one of them. Personally, I'd quite like to see us try and get to a four at the back and have him a bit further forward. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can't say that hasn't already been said about him. He's absolutely superb, isn't he? And he is the best thing to come out. He's progressed so much quicker than anybody else that we've got coming through. So.
I think for me, actually, as well, apart from how brilliant he is in terms of his ability on the pitch, it's just how level-headed he is and what a down-to-earth guy. You know what I mean? Nothing goes to his head. He's not getting too big for his boots, is he? He's so down to earth. It's just fantastic. And I say that's why he kind of maybe reminds me a little bit of David Rocastle in that kind of way as well, for his whole kind of attitude as well. It's just fantastic. And I say I'm so excited about where his career can go. I mean, what about yourself, Lee? What did you make of his performance last night? It was brilliant, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think what I say the greatest thing about it is it's nice to watch an England game with an Arsenal player in it.
The first one I've watched.
That's the first one I've watched for ages because honestly, I'll watch it, see all the Spurs players lining up. See you later. Turn it off. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Rather watch Scotland or someone like that. You know what I mean? So it's great to see that. And I thought, I totally agree with what Paul's saying there. I think that at some stage we've got to sort of say, right, this is his position, and he's got to stick to it, whether it be in a midfield three or a left back or whatever. I think last season, by the way, when he come in at left back, I thought he was absolutely outstanding outstanding at left back. But I'm a little bit like what you guys are saying. He's probably too good a player to play left back, if you know what I mean. But I thought he was absolutely outstanding at left back. You know what I mean? Him and Martinelli, by the way, were a joy to watch on many occasions on a cold Portsmouth night and some games like that. But I thought they were fantastic. But I think that maybe it is further forward. Where I'm like you guys, I don't know. But I disagree with. I'm going to disagree with you there about that, Richard. About since David Rocastle, I think probably since Jack Wilshere. I think Jack Wilshere was outstanding for us until he got injured.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, was a great.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I do go on those lines though that he is in that a bit. If he stays his fit, I think that we're going to be talking in the David Rocastle, Jack Wilshere, Liam Brady sort of mould here. This is a player that I think, with a left foot, you sort of relate to him, didn't you, with the left foot? And Liam Brady at that age was the same sort of what I can remember as a kid. Comfortable on the ball, I love the way he glides past people, just drops his shoulder and goes past the people. I think he's got, he's our most creative player in our team, and he's 19, 18, 19, and I think he's got a fantastic future. We don't mention Ashley Cole on any stage. Russ, I've just seen there saying Ashley Cole. Yes, he wasn't too bad. But I think Jack Wilshere was before him, right? Ashley Cole was fantastic as well.
I think just with Jack Wilshere, maybe because his career never really got going with us because
gutted for him,
yeah. And I agree, he probably was. I mean, he probably was one of the greatest players that's come through our system and got into the first team. So yeah, I mean, I maybe didn't consider him just because of his injuries issues. But Bukayo Saka is I think he's just an amazing player and
lovely player to watch, isn't he? I like sitting there, particularly with England games. I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't care if England win, lose or draw. I don't care. So watching him last night, I can put my feet up and just enjoy it because when he's playing for Arsenal, I'm a little bit too tense. I enjoyed watching him play last night. So long may it continue. You know he ain't going to play the next game anyway because Southgate's not very good. But when he does play, I will sit there, put my old slippers on, and just enjoy Saka. I love him. I love watching him play football.
Yeah. And I mentioned earlier on in the show, I felt that he was able to play with a lot more freedom last night as well, wasn't he? You know, he was in a left wing back position, but he was just allowed the freedom to get forward. And you know, he knew he could lose the ball. He lost the ball a few times, a few sloppy passes here and there, but it didn't matter, did it? Because he knew he could just carry on doing what he was doing. And in the end, I mean, what a great! That's probably the best performance I can remember by an Arsenal player playing for England for a long time. You know, probably since Ashley Cole. In actual fact, probably. I mean, I can't think of one. I don't know. Jack Wilshere had a game, didn't he? Where he scored 2 goals, didn't he? One game for England. That was a decent performance. But it's quite rare, isn't it, for an Arsenal player to shine and get man in a match in the way that he did last night. I mean, even Ainsley when he came on, I didn't think he did
done well.
He did well. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny, isn't it? He seems to be getting more game time for England at the moment in Arsenal, doesn't he? Ainsley, he's had a few games for England this season. And he's not getting us. I don't know quite why.
Since he's not been in the Arsenal side, he's got in the England side.
Yeah.
Southgate's a funny man in my eyes, you know what I mean? So funny man.
Yeah.
Andrew's just so it's good.
Sorry, just one first comment on Jack Wilshere. Really, I agree with Lee. Absolutely gutted what happened, but he should have been our Steven Gerrard. That's what he should have been, and what he could have been. He could have been a one club man, skipper. You know, that's what he could and probably should have been. Unfortunately, it's not worked out that way.
I do feel a little bit though. Not only, he did have a lot of injuries, but as well, what you got to remember is I think Bukayo Saka is a lot more down to earth. I think Jack Wilshere was a little bit, didn't quite live the lifestyle he maybe could have done as well, which didn't really help. I think Bukayo Saka is just not going to do the same mistakes, is he? So I think that's
he's a clever kid, isn't he? He got like A stars and A's and all of his GCSEs. You know, he finished school. He did really well. But I'll tell you something. Arteta's got some decisions to make down that left-hand side because for me, Tierney, I love Tierney as well. Absolutely love him, and he's a proper left back. I don't really want to see him as part of a back three, really. Although he can do a job there, I think you lose something by not having him at left back. Then you got Saka, and then you got Martinelli to come back as well, depending on where you're going to play in. So,
you can have Tierney left back, Saka on the left of the 3 midfielders, and then Martinelli playing in Aubameyang's position, and Aubameyang in the middle, and there you go. That's the job done, isn't it? Really. I mean, what Jonathan put there's a good point as well. You know, Partey's only just come into the team; he's not played much yet. I think we will see a transition in the way that we play, given the time he's got in the team as well. So we need to bear that in mind, and that's a good point. Maybe it's almost like we've almost forgotten about Thomas Partey because he's not really played much yet, has he? He's only had a couple of games. So
been superb though, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a great player for us, isn't he? I think there's no doubt.
And Gabriel's been an absolute beast for us.
Yeah, Gabriel as well. Yeah, and it's a shame, isn't it, in a way that we've got 2 great signings, and we've got a decent spine of the team. If Aubameyang can be played through the middle where he should be, we've got a great spine through the middle of the team, haven't we, to build around. And yes, maybe it's going to take a bit more time. And I think sometimes it is. We've said it before. I mean, when you've just seen Arsenal lose and play poorly, it's easy to react quite negatively just because you're so upset. I was at Aston Villa. I was devastated after Aston Villa game because I felt that was such a big game that we needed to win, and to put a performance like that, I was absolutely raging. But given time to think about it, you can see things a little bit differently, can't you? When you calm down a bit.
I don't sleep properly after. After we lost that game, I don't sleep properly. I wake up in the night. You know what I mean? Like it's a bloody hate Arsenal. I do really like that.
So that's what it does.
it affects you. You know what I mean? Like so, like you react to what the result is. That's why.
Yeah, you do.
As a fan, I go overboard when we win, and I go overboard when we lose. But that's the way I am as a fan. You know what I mean? So.
I think we all do. And that's part of being a football fan, isn't it? It's all ups and downs, isn't it? You're not in a straight line being a football fan, are you? You're either high or you're low, and either way, it's not related to reality, is it? It's just the way that you react, and that's what football is, and that's why we love it. That's why we're football fans at the end of the day, and that's why we do it.
Yeah. And do you know what? I'm not going to lie. Do you know when everybody still goes mad about when we won at White Hart Lane? And so I had the ump that day when it walked out there because we was 2-0 up and drew. I was fucking fuming. And it's a great thing, but at the time, you know what I mean? Jens Lehmann, I could have shot him that game. I tell you, like, you know what I mean? But that's how you are, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? And I never enjoyed that moment.
No,
because in my eyes, we'd thrown away a 2-goal lead. I know we won it, but you know. That's the way I am, you know. So, like, you might enjoy it. Like, no, I'll kill him. Like,
the whole point is, though, for me, and I've always felt like this, that being a football fan isn't something that you enjoy. You don't enjoy the moments really at that was happy. You look back on them afterwards, and and think, oh, that was a fantastic to have experienced that. But at the time, you're too tense and it's too difficult to deal with. I think I found it like that my whole life, and it doesn't get any easier. The good times are the same and the bad times are the same, but we all, like you said, we overreact both ways, don't we? And that's unfortunately the way it is. And you know, I do try on this channel to try to keep things a little bit more perspective, but it's difficult. You know, when you've just lost a game 3-0 to Aston Villa, like you said, you know, you can't think properly. It goes over in your mind, and you know, I'm like, you know, angry about it for 2 or 3 days, you know, and usually there's another game and you can forget it, but at the moment there hasn't been, so it's been worse this week. But luckily England cheered me up last night. Well, Bukayo Saka cheered me up last night with his performance for England, so at least we had that to take our mind off it, I guess. But yeah, I mean,
I just think back to the last 6 months under Emery. That kind of makes me feel a little bit better about things. That run up to that Europa League final when we felt like we lost every week.
The Europa League final, oh god, how did I feel after that?
Yeah,
that was
what an opportunity that was. Makes you wonder whether things would have been different had we won that.
Well, I mean, it would have been different in the sense that it would have bought Emery more time because he's won a trophy. In the same sense that we said earlier, didn't we? Arteta's won the FA Cup, so he's kind of bought himself time, which is right. So Emery equally would have bought himself time because we'd have been in the Champions League. Don't forget, wouldn't we as well?
Yeah, we would have been. But to capitulate like in that cup final, that was the end for me for him.
No, that was.
He was never going to recover after that. If he couldn't get up for a final, he was gone in my book. Yeah, but I'd like. Do you know, like when he had no credit. No credit after that game. Anything gone. He was a dead man walking after that game, unfortunately. But it could have been so different.
I just wonder what would have happened actually. Because we would have been in the Champions League. He would have won a trophy in his first season, and you know, it's difficult to get your head around to think what might have happened. Would have been totally different. I mean, we wouldn't be in this situation we're in now. I mean, hopefully we'd be in the Champions League again.
And I think if it weren't for Aaron Ramsey getting injured, we'd have might have gone on and won it that too. Because the wheels come off when he got injured. And we've not really replaced him, have we? That's what I think. The wheels come off that season, and we've not really replaced. I'm not saying he's the great, but the way he played is something that we miss. Someone that goes beyond the striker, makes things happen. We've missed someone like that, you know. But
that's what I think Willett could be. Willett could be that.
Yeah,
I really do think he can grow into that.
He's the only one, isn't he? The only midfield player that does that, really, that we've got, isn't he? That gets beyond.
But not in the class of Aaron Ramsey, though. Let's get that right.
No, not yet.
Not yet. I don't think he was. Aaron Ramsey was a very, very good player at 18 as well. By the way, you know, if it weren't for that injury, I think I watched it. I do remember the game against Arsenal. Well, I tell you, it was Arsenal Portsmouth. He scored at Portsmouth. He was brilliant that day, and I think
I remember that 1-4-1, didn't we?
Yeah, he was brilliant. And then he come on. I think the game against Stoke was about 3 or 4 weeks later, if I remember right. He was really fit, and he had pace. He had that little bit of. Even though when he come back, he'd lost a yard of pace, but he had that bit of pace as well. He was going to be one hell of a player, by the way. You know what I mean? And he was dominating that game against Stoke when they were putting it about a bit, and you think, "Wow, we've got a player here," and then it was never quite the same, you know. But gutted really. Another injury cost us what I think would. Look, listen, Aaron Ramsey wouldn't be at Arsenal for as long as he was when after that, like, you know. But he would have gone to Barcelona, Real Madrid. He would have, in my eyes, he was that good. But
yeah, he was superb. That season, yeah, was it 14, 15?
Unbelievable.
What did he get? 16 goals in the league or something stupid like that? He was unbelievable.
It was never quite the same after. You know, can you imagine that would have without that injury? Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, he was. I mean, I still think he did have a decent career with Arsenal, didn't he? 2 FA Cup winning goals, the only player in our history to do that. So, you know, and he was a great player. So, but yeah, I agree. We never know what he could have become if it wasn't for that injury.
Mind blowing, Richard. Mind blowing.
Yeah, no, I agree. He was something special, and I say even so, I still thought he had a great career, and I love the guy. And yeah, and I do think we haven't replaced him in the team. We haven't done. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, we're where we are on the back of the fact that we don't have a player like that. And, yeah, Andrew's made a good point now, actually. The goal against Galatasaray.
Oh, what a goal that was, wasn't it? That was breathtaking.
On his weaker foot as well, on his left foot.
Yeah, unbelievable. Breathtaking.
That was a great goal. And
I'll tell you something as well. Arteta strikes me as the manager that would have got the best out of Ramsey as well, if he'd have still been at the club.
Yeah, probably.
Some great goals. You remember the one against Norwich? He got 2 against Norwich, one at home and one away. The away goal.
That volley. Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Don't get me all depressed now, like, you know.
Willock's goal against Liverpool in the cup last year, that was a good strike as well, wasn't it?
Very good strike. Yeah, very good strike.
Yeah.
Probably left out the next game though.
Yeah.
Well, Arteta wasn't manager then, so he
probably... No.
Anyway, I mean it's been a great show, guys. Thanks both of you guys for coming on. Paul, where can people find you on social media?
Just on Twitter, you can see my handle there at Dawsey2801. So head over, drop me a follow, and hopefully get involved in more of your shows moving forward.
You're not got your own channel set up yet, then?
Started. I've made a start. I've got some ideas, but I've been away in Scotland for 2 weeks, and just haven't really got my arse in gear in terms of getting it up and running. So it's in the pipeline.
Well, now lockdown's on, you've got more time to get it done, haven't you?
Exactly. Yeah. No excuse now.
It's been a pleasure having you on again, and of course, Lee, first time on the channel, been fantastic. Thanks for coming on.
No, I always do anything for you, Rich. You know that, like, you know. So even though you beat me at quizzes every time, but you know, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad your show's going really well. I'm really pleased for you.
No, thanks for coming on, and I'm sure everyone knows where to find you. And
I'm everywhere, mate. I do like that.
So I mean, obviously, thanks to Andrew as well for being on a bit early. I know he had to shoot off because he's got other stuff going on this evening. So just if thanks to all the guys in the chat as well. Actually, there's been some great comments and in there. Obviously, Lee's got a few fans as well, as we'd expect. We've had DWTT's been in again, and Russ obviously as well. There was Luca was in earlier as well, and Ben as well. So thanks to all you guys as well, and Harry as well made an appearance, didn't he? Commenting on Lee's hair, which was so thanks for you guys for watching. Thanks for the guys in the chat. So if you haven't done, please give the channel a subscribe and give it a like as well. I've got some great stuff coming up this week, coming up into the Leeds game. I'll be previewing that. The Leeds game as well, plus the obviously Europa Leagues after that again, isn't it? Seem to be coming thick and fast, the games. So there'll always be lots of stuff going on. I'll probably try and put out a few more videos as well. I'm going to be starting a new series of videos doing my sort of favourite players in each position over the years, sort of 2 or 3 for each position that I've watched over the years. So I might start that over the weekend and go through maybe my top 50 players or something like that, that I've enjoyed watching for Arsenal. I don't know how many of the last 10 years there'll be and how many players from there. I'm sure there might be 1 or 2. I'm sure most of them will probably be up to about year 2006 probably, but we'll see. So stay tuned for that. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for you guys for coming on. It's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. And of course, in the meantime, as always, we always like to finish the same way, don't we? Come on, you Gunners! Come on, you Gunners!
Come on, you Gunners!